Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to go by Apple time, not Town Council time, which is about two minutes late, 2 minutes early. So I'm going to go by my clock so I can make sense of things. Right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you to all the members of the public, councillors and officers who are joining us for tonight's meeting, both in person and online. Please be aware that the Council is video recording this meeting and it will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. I'd just like to highlight some of the key points of the meeting format. Please can I ask everyone to have their phones switched off or sent to silent. Fire exits are via the doors out of the chambers and down the external fire escape doors, or via the main entrance where you entered the building, or not, as the case may be. In the event of a fire, the lift can't be used. Assembly point is outside the Royal Mail Parcel Office on West Street. And please remain seated unless you're invited to speak or need to take a comfort break. The toilet facilities are out in the corridor through which you entered. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with the key points as follows. Public participation is limited to 4 minutes per person and must be relating to an item of business on the agenda. And as chair, I will interject if I need to enforce this. When the public participation agenda item is introduced, please raise your hand to show you wish to speak and I'll invite you to speak. If you're comfortable standing, please do so that you can ensure you're heard across the room. You don't need to state your name if you start speaking if you don't wish to, but we do ask you to clearly state which agenda item you're talking about. I'd ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of an agenda item in order to limit distraction for other participants. And members of the public looking to leave the building would need to be escorted out by a council officer. If the meeting goes into confidential session, a short 2-minute break will be held to allow members of the public to leave. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible in order to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please state point of order and I will then gesture to you to elaborate. If anyone present is felt to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. And thank you for listening. On behalf of the council, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this council meeting. Right. So,
do you have to bang your mallet?
Do I?
Yeah. Is there not a banging of the mallet?
I don't think it's necessary. Okay. Right. So first of all, apologies for absence. We have 3 apologies: Councillor Imogen Taylor, Councillor Shah Ali, and Councillor Jeff Rutland. Is that everybody? Do you have any other messages? No. Agenda item 2, disclosure of interests. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interests and interests other than pecuniary interests, as defined by the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and the Localism Act of 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Councillor Walraven.
Thank you, Chair. On agenda 4, item 5, I chaired the Armed Forces Committee and also a member of Foresight St George. And also item 14 on agenda 4, I'm a member of Seaford Rotary. Thank you.
Thank you. A multi-talented lady. We've got those noted, have we? Right. Okay. I'm sure we will be asking you for your contribution from those. Thank you. Right. Item 3, public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representation from members of the public in accordance with the relevant legislation and Seaford Town Council policy. So do we have any members of the public who would like to contribute? So would you like to give your name if you wish to? Would you like to stand up and address the council?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Frank Thompson and I represent the Rotary Club of Seaford. I'd like to give you some background to the agenda item 1, item 4, recommendation 6, regarding the provision of a defibrillator for Bishopston. It's for the village, not the station, because there's already one at the station and it's been there for some time. Several years ago, the then young mayor successfully raised money for the installation of several defibrillators in the town. And since then, various businesses have also installed defibrillators. As far as we're concerned, we think there's now 18 or 19 in the town, and that doesn't include those that are in care homes, etc. We've been particularly concerned that there should be, the defibrillators should be available 24/7 rather than being in a shop that closes. In 2018, the Rotary Club started to look at the defibrillator picture of the town and found the available information gave a very mixed picture regarding locations, registration of the units and maintenance liabilities. We had meetings with the first responders and CCAM, and there was clearly a disparity between what they knew and what we knew. It transpired that this was the case all over the UK. We talked with our MP, who advised us to look at the British Heart Foundation website, as they were drawing up a national register. Even now in 2023, there are confusions as to what is and what is not on a register, although it is improving. After COVID, we started again, and a small working group was set up under the guidance of then Mayor Rodney Reed, and various sites were considered suitable for possible installations. We came to the conclusion that Bishopston Village should have one, since the distance to the unit at the village hall and church was excessive and similarly to that at the railway station. Because Bishopston Village is rather, not isolated anyway, but it's something on its own and it hasn't got anything like that. In surveying the village for a suitable location, it was found there were no public buildings on which one could be mounted. We have, however, found a suitable island site in St Andrew's Drive. However, this doesn't have an electricity supply. We researched the matter further and found that we could get a freestanding fiberglass cubicle containing a solar-powered unit. We had a site meeting with James McLeary in June 2022, and he undertook to take the matter up with East Sussex County Council Highways, who subsequently agreed late last year that, subject to public liability of insurance of £10 million to cover all aspects of construction, installation and subsequent ownership. We can meet these regulations with regard to public liability insurance by having an approved East Sussex County Council contractor to do the basic work. Rotary Great Britain and Ireland Insurance will cover us to complete the work, and then we need STC, Seaford Town Council, to take ownership and cover the maintenance costs for replacement pads as and when required. Once the latter is agreed, we will start crowdfunding with the residents in Bishopston to cover the overall cost of the equipment. I trust this proposal and recommendation to take ownership can be agreed by this committee and the work put in hand for the benefit of the people of Bishopston. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Very good timing as well, thank you. And on behalf of the community and the Town Council, thank you very much to Rotary generally, because we know how hard they work to support our community, so thank you very much. We will be discussing that in the forthcoming agenda items. Thank you. Right. So, next item is item 4, a projects and facilities update report. Mark, Louise, can I ask you to take over, please?
Good evening, everyone. Between the last meeting in June and the meeting we have here today, we pulled together a body of work that the project team are currently looking at. And that body of work is in this report. It contains 16 briefings, 1 events update showing 17 events, a project log with 62 current projects on it. We also, within our everyday work, manage all the assets for Seaford Town Council. The events update and the project log are going to appear in every report going forward, and they will be reflecting our current workload. So you will always have an idea of what the pressures are. I wanted to share that the team is actually made up of 3.5 full-time people. So it's really important that we carefully manage our programme of work. Our role is to work on the projects that you ask us to work on, and as such we are your employees. If you need more information, then do ask us about the work that we're currently doing. I'm not expecting in the future the report to contain 16 items. We can't possibly manage that. But I felt it was really important to try to capture where we are now as a starting point for going forwards. Sharon, do you want to say anything about the items in the report?
So we've all had the report. We've got 7 motions to look at in the report tonight. And does anybody have any questions about any of the items on the report outside of those motions this evening?
Thank you, Chair. I have just some general kind of information requests, things I don't quite understand or whatever. Christmas Magic, did we lose money on it before? I just wonder how much we lost and why it's considered that this is now a liability, whereas I don't remember it having been highlighted as a liability before. Just a little bit of information on that.
Yeah, so we have secured sponsorship before from funding and from local businesses and international, well, UK businesses, not more international. We are struggling with that kind of sponsorship at the moment with our resource that we've currently got available, with the changes that we've had to our team and the lead time that we've got to deliver this event now. The structures in the past, we have used some marquees which are up to 30 miles per hour, and we've had to take these down on 2 to 3 occasions for this event. And last year we used some structures which withhold winds and wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour, and they're a considerable cost. So without any extra sponsorship or funding outside of our monies to hold the event, this does take us over budget for this event. Yeah.
Thank you. I think, can I carry on?
Well, please.
Sorry. Armed Forces, I think I read somewhere else that there was an intention maybe in 24 to amalgamate Armed Forces Day and the D-Day celebrations. Is that correct? Because I wasn't sure if that was an idea, because it seems to me that if it's within the same month, it would be a little bit excessive maybe to have 2 different celebrations, which are then so much officer time. And if it was possible to amalgamate them, I mean, maybe this is something that the Order of St George would consider. I don't know if it's something that could be discussed, because it seems to me that it would be a great opportunity to put them together and therefore save costs and make a bigger event, as opposed to taking one event and making it so much smaller and kind of like a bit of a whisper. I don't know. That's just a comment I have to suggest. I'm not sure where I'm going in the right place now. We're not into, I think I'm on the next item, 10.
So we've talked about 4 and 5.
Yeah, I might be commenting on the same items as well. So,
Well, we'll let Councillor Meek, he seems to have a list, he's on a roll.
I do.
So, let him come to the individual list and then we'll share it out, thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on renaturing 10.3, which refers to a meeting that which was very kindly organised by Councillor Bristow with the interested voluntary groups about renaturing.
It's in a different meeting, though. Sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry, can we just let Councillor Meek finish?
Is that not the meeting that we talked about?
It was on the 30th.
Trees for Seaford, gardening and action, Seaford on the verge. Item 10.1, renaturing.
And
I think we have a point of clarification if this would help from our assets officer.
it seems like we had 2 meetings. One you went to with Trees for Seaford, and one we went to as officers with Trees for Seaford. And what's happened is we didn't know you were going to one, so we're talking about the one we had.
Okay.
So you're right to pick it up.
Okay. Okay, sorry. But just to clarify, at our meeting,
Yeah.
I don't think it was established that a late summer or early autumn one cut was an ideal solution. And at that meeting we did identify that actually a discussion needs to be had with all the stakeholders, ESCC, LDC and us, about how we go forward with verge cutting, because it's a terribly contentious issue with all our residents. And some people are loving the renaturing, other people like the idea of it, but when practically they don't like it. And I think it's something we really need to kind of consider. Going on to, if I may, at number 11, I just wanted to have a question about the old Greenkeeper's Hut. I think I'm aware of where it is. I have a question as what is it going to be used for if it's renovated? What is it being used for? What could it be used for? Or do we even need to keep it? I just put those questions out into the ether.
Do you want us to answer that one?
Yes, please.
So the old Greenkeeper's Hut at the moment has a roof that's condemned, but in it is stored all of the things that we need for the events that we host in terms of the signage, the barriers, because we have to store that equipment somewhere. So by putting the roof back on, it makes it's a safe space for us to store that. We also have to store in the garage down here, which is heaving. So we would want to move some of the equipment over to the Greenkeeper's Hut. The alternative is to pay for storage, which doesn't seem to make much sense when we actually have a really good hut once you put the roof on.
I think thank you very much. That's a fantastic explanation. Thank you. Number 13. Sorry, I'm taking up a lot of time here, but I'm getting all my questions out of the way. I just wondered, just a suggestion as we go forward. I think it's great to involve kids in this, and this was an original suggestion of mine some time ago. I wondered if we could involve Skip in it in some way, because they're great at involving kids and helping them to generate some good signs which would maybe be eye-catching and also emotionally poignant to people to read and go, oh, the kids don't like the littering, so we can take it home. I think that would be a really good idea. And also, just my last point is 17 memorial bench policy. I think I don't see why we should have to maintain benches in perpetuity. I wondered if it could be suggested to people when they buy a bench that they will be buying a bench that will be put in place, but once it reaches the end of its useful life, Seaford Town Council can no longer be responsible for it, and if they want a placard to be on the bench, maybe they could replace the bench, but otherwise it wouldn't get replaced. Otherwise we are going to be on a hiding to nothing with the number of benches we've got. So I don't think we can be held responsible for that. Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry, that was rather long-winded. But
It's a very long list, so thank you. You've
Sorry.
clearly done your homework, Councillor Meek, and we very much appreciate it. Thank you. Councillor Walraven, can I take us back to the Armed Forces Day and the D-Day? And we very much value your opinion about this, given your other roles.
Yes, well, Sharon and I have had a little chat about it, and back in 2012, when it was the Queen's Golden Jubilee, we did a trim down on Forces Day, and it was just round the Martello Tower, and it went off fine because we had big celebrations for the Golden Jubilee, and you just couldn't afford the officers' time to do 2 major events in 1 month, or I think it was 2 months, I can't remember now, but anyway, it was in a short period of time. And so we still had the parade, and we still had service of thanks and blessing, and I think we arranged with the staff of the Seaford Museum for refreshments, and we had Seaford Silver Band playing. It was a nice afternoon, fortunately, and it all went off rather well, and there wasn't an awful lot of work organising it. So it's got to go before the Royal Society of St George Seahaven Branch Committee, but was waiting till you've had a D-Day committee meeting and what's coming down from Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
And but if the Armed Forces committee can help with the D-Day celebrations, I'm sure members will be only pleased to do.
Are you happy with that? Can we just clarify?
Yeah.
Are we talking about two celebrations, one for D-Day and a scaled down version for Armed Forces Day, not an amalgamation of the two on the same day? It is just a scaling down.
It could be, or we could combine it. As I say, Armed Forces Day is a national event which happens the last Saturday in June. But I think this is something that needs to be discussed. Either do the two and maybe have the Mayor lay a wreath at the War Memorial on Armed Forces Day, or do two separate ones. But I think it's just what we need to discuss, which would work best.
Right, okay, well, we'll take that to the vote then. Okay. Are there any more? Right. Councillor.
Right, go back to number 4, Christmas Magic.
Yeah.
So those two structures we used last year on the High Street and Broad Street, do we own those? That's one question.
No.
Okay, that's good. So that clarifies that side of things. Where I can see why you would obviously have to get something similar hire it from somewhere if you were going to do something substantial like that. I was interested in the way last year you used the High Street plus Broad Street. Maybe if you did do it this year, it was just going to be Broad Street, or you haven't got as far as that yet. I'm not sure if you're going to do, but you haven't got as far as that. That's just my observation on that side of things. And I welcome what you're doing with the lanterns, by the way, because if you're trying to emulate possibly what they do in Brighton with their, again, they get schools involved to make their lanterns and they come down on the shortest day, weather permission, of course. So that's the same if you're here, all there, isn't it? So that's all positive. So I'm quite happy what you are saying on that side of things. We talked about Armed Forces Day, so that's all. Again, that is quite clear. I'm quite happy with the trial of the fitness classes, although I don't know how you're going to run it, the more detailed side of things. That's and how it's going to be policed, but that's something which I was a little bit concerned about. The renaturing Council Mix dealt with, so that I think that's quite clear. Even though I think people, because of the what happens in May, isn't it? I think people have got used to using the word rewilding because of what happens in May, not knowing things, and I think that's how that they use it in their phrasing, don't they, rewilding. So I think that's one reason why it's stuck more than renaturing, because renaturing is probably more accurate, isn't it, from what we wanted. On the old greenkeeper's hut, now you've explained that you're not keeping those items we just talked about. Oh, they're quite huge to store those somewhere anyway. So I suppose what you're trying to say, you store lower risk stuff up there in case there's an incident. That's what you're trying to say, isn't it? So that was clear on that. 12, the promenade repairs. As a regular parkland user, it does get comments about that into the seafront. If you're starting more the west side of the seafront is probably in its most least repair, isn't it? But then needs more repair, partly because that's where it gets all the weather generally. It's less protected, isn't it? The west side of the promenade. So I can see I'd welcome if that's where you're going to concentrate most of it, isn't it? Most of the seafront repairs on the prom. So that's all positive. Litter bins, again, likewise with what Councillor Meg was saying, involve Skip, good idea, that's because they got linked with the schools and everything. The gentleman there talked about defibrillators, so we are talking about the village now, not the station, even though that is something that needs to be moved over. The memorial bench policy, does that include the shoal as well, all the things there? Do we maintain those, or is that done by the SCP? I'm not aware if they do. Do we maintain the little stick, metal stickers all on the shoal? It really does get the weather there, doesn't it?
Yeah, we do maintenance, but it's very low compared to some of the other memorial items in the town.
Okay. Again, I think that's for a wider discussion as what the Chair was saying, really, wasn't it? That side of things. And I think that's covered everything for now. So.
Thank you. Councillor Bristow.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak through. I think quite a few points have already been raised, so hopefully I won't take too long. The item 8, the annual licence fee for exercise and fitness classes. I was at the council meeting when this was first proposed, and I've been contacted by several fitness instructors and Cycling Without Age, and at that time people were quite worried about it and worried, whether they'd be able to use outside space and how that the costs would impact their business, because I think at the beginning when they were first mooted they were quite high, but having spoken to some people today about this, I think £55 is quite reasonable. It's felt to be quite reasonable. But nevertheless, I'm conscious that, the people I've asked, has there been a sort of wider consultation, and do our local fitness instructors know about this properly? Has there been some engagement done there? I'd like a bit of clarification about whether you have to hire one of the council facilities, whether it's a court or a pitch or whatever it happens to be, to do that class, or whether it's just, you turn up and use a bit of grass. It may not be sort of an actual pitch or a court, it can be, at the side of a field or in some gardens or so on. So I'd like a bit of clarification on that. And the other thing is, if you've got a group who are out there doing something which is unpaid but still organised, how does that work? I know there was some mention of sort of being associated with a charity or something, but I'm not sure whether that's actually practical. So a few questions around that. I don't know if you want to answer those before I carry on.
Is it okay if we answer
Yeah,
those?
we'd just like to answer this one if that's okay, for the sake of clarity. Thank you.
So with the patches of land, it wouldn't be that somebody would necessarily need the whole of Martello Fields or the whole area of a football pitch on the Salts. We're finding that sometimes there's clash of uses on the green space. We need to make sure people are safe that are attending those classes, and also using the land for other public safety. So it would be for us to just make sure everybody's got all of the right information to be able to hold those classes, that maybe we don't have something else happening in the same space on the same day at the same time, just so we're aware of what's happening on all the land. And also with regards to the costings, we do normally follow guidance from Lewes District Council and some of the licence fees that they put in place for various things. So a bit more of a standard nominated costing, because we were mindful of the last meeting.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's good. So just to come back, so for example, if someone's having a session, I don't know, somewhere where it's not a space which we normally rent out. So for example, one of the other bits of grass at the Crouch, or it could be, at the top corner of the Salts or something, where they're not sort of having to, they're sort of mobile, would they still have to apply for it if they're not sort of actually hiring a place?
Yeah, so we know who's where at what time, and then there are documents that we would need to look through and approve.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, sorry, Reese has a comment, just for clarification.
Just to say that what it also does is give us a really great opportunity to support these events. At the moment, we have lots of events going on, we quite often don't know they're going on, and we're looking at creating a space on our website so that local community groups can actually publicise what they're doing. So we can be comfortable to say, yeah, we've got the right risk assessments, we know the event's going on, it's going on regularly. And in terms of that community enabling, joining up the groups together, thinking about people who are lonely or looking to increase their well-being. Right now, we don't have anything on the website really pushing that. So this gives us another way to access that information, which I think will help for us to look at what we can do. And then it leads on to events and grants and sponsorship. So it just starts opening those doors of an area that we, at the moment, don't really work with.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know.
Chair, sorry, if you don't mind. Just you asked about charging and free events and stuff. In the Appendix A, it does say registered charities are exempt of charge on pre-platform of the NHS. So that sort of gives an indication of the sort of approach we're trying to take.
Yeah. No, that's good. I did read that. I was just wondering about, sort of groups that come who aren't paid and aren't a charity. So, anyway, moving on to the renaturing, I really welcome the fact that we're talking about renaturing now, because that's a lot more specific than rewilding, and really talks about sort of optimising places for nature and then having a knock-on effect for wellbeing and so on. Thanks to Councillor Meek for your comments there. Just to clarify, we had an information session on the 30th of August where some of the local groups came and presented to us about their activities and some of their aspirations, and it was very useful for the councillors who attended, so thanks to those who came along. I think in light of all the publicity that there's been this summer about overgrown verges and junctions and so on, I think it might be quite useful to just clarify for the public really where we're talking about in Seaford. I know we know where Seaford Town Council land is, but not everyone does, and I think in light of that, that might be quite useful. And the other thing I was going to say about it is, given that supporting and potentially increasing biodiversity is hopefully going to be one of our main policy points in the Climate Change Subcommittee policy, which is forthcoming to full council, I really welcome the renaturing policy coming to climate change for comment on its journey through council.
Yes, by all means.
So just to say, this is just a very tiny brief on something that is actually a huge subject. And what I want to do is capture that we recognise this has got a lot of energy behind it, and what we will do is actually start looking at the best way to see what the opinions and views are, and actually map out. I agree with you completely. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of, did they miss the cut, or is that actually supposed to look like that? We've been talking with Ida Verde about what they seem to be doing. So we need to do quite a big project to pull together an understanding and then actually bring it to council and say, what are you thinking? The other thing on top of that is to work with Lewis District. It's got quite a developed renaturing policy, and look at mimicking that. And on top of that, we're looking at a grounds maintenance working group coming forward. And I think within that contract, we might want to look at, when we look at the new contract, how do we want to handle that renaturing? Do we even want to put the renaturing bit out with the same contract, or do we want to go more specialist? And certainly that there are organisations out there who do that specialist, because we're a little bit caught up with one sort of size. So this is just a little, dare I say, teaser to say this is coming, and absolutely get excited about it, because I think it's a really exciting opportunity for Seaford.
Thank you. Thanks for that. That's very useful. Part 12, the promenade repairs. Thank you very much for all the information. I appreciate that the Environment Agency and others have come and done safety risk assessments. I'm mindful that the promenade, in my opinion, is one of Seaford's best assets. It's why a lot of people come here. It's very popular with local residents, especially, well, all year round, but even on a crisp cold day in winter when everywhere else is very muddy and you don't want to get your shoes stuck, go to the promenade, have a nice walk along. It's also, over much of its length, a shared use surface for cyclists and joggers and walkers and families and people using mobility equipment and so on and so forth, even a bit of roller skating. And I do worry that that the report kind of says, let's leave things for 5 years, because as we know with our increasingly unpredictable and varying climate, it only takes 1 or 2 storms sometimes to wash away whole swathes of shingle or so on and cause damage. And I wonder about taking a much more longer term view and starting to think about treating it a bit like the Forth Bridge and say, you know, perhaps there should be some repairs done on a rolling basis at whatever frequency and level that is. So that's just a bit of a thought on that one. Seafront litter bin signs, yeah, great, involve who we can. I noticed in Lewis last night that they have signs from Environment First at LDC saying, you know, in Lewis we've been our gun, we do this, so there are different ways to sort of, I think we need to try as best we can to invoke that cultural change and that sort of, you come to Seaford, we're tidy people here, we like to, you know, treat it well, and I think, yes, I know it's an uphill struggle. Yeah, I have a question about item 14 for the defibrillator in Bishopstone. Thank you very much to Mr Thompson for your clarifications and words there. I think it's really important. And I'm wondering, within the financial appraisal here, 18.1, will the costs, are the costs the same, or now that, you know, the location has been clarified, do the costs differ in any way? And that's all my points.
Can I answer that? Yes, we'll answer that one. Thank you about the clarification, Councillor.
The cost will remain the same, as it's just two parts that are ongoing costs.
Is that
Thank you.
okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bistone. Councillor Dubac.
Hi, in relation to the exercise licences, quite often I see groups of people being led on the salts and on the beach. Usually later on at night. How are you going to police that? And what are the consequences of not having a licence?
We have people that have notified us that those groups are taking place. We would like to put something on our website to let people know that this licence is available, and on our notice boards. With regards to policing it, that's something that we need to look at a little bit further at the moment.
And what will be the consequences?
Again, that's something that I think we'd need to look at again and see what options are available to us.
So is that something we're going to be voting on, whether to go ahead with this? Is that something?
Yes,
Yes.
it's a motion.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a motion.
All right, okay. Grounds maintenance, summer 25 is far too late for that. We need to be doing it as soon as possible, the working group. Is that something can you bring forward, please?
Shall I answer that? Yes, please.
So the contract runs out in 2026, and in terms of the body of work we've outlined here and the support that piece of work will need, we would struggle with officer support to bring it forward any earlier. We also have obviously the working group support for South Hill Farm, which is coming up now, and in terms of what you're going to look at, I think it probably take you about 6 months to decide what content you want in your new grounds maintenance project. The other thing I'm quite keen to do is Lewis District are possibly considering what they do with their grounds maintenance, and we might want to think about working alongside them initially, just what are the ideas they're having. We don't have to adopt their ideas, but it's just helpful to see what they're looking at, and that's the time they will start looking as well. So it just seems sensible to run alongside in terms of that body of work.
Well, I'd like to propose that we bring it forward to next year too, because you've got to look at the options that were available. We've got to look at maybe working with New Haven, Peacehaven and putting collaborative contracts together, not just doing the same thing over and over again. And that involves time getting those partnerships together. And I don't think leaving it until the summer, which is, you know, it's not going to leave you enough time to investigate and write tenders in giving people plenty of time to respond for the new contract. I think it's far too late, and I'd like to propose it's brought forward to 24, not 25, please.
So just to clarify, you are proposing an amendment to the sheet, the worksheet. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are there any more
Yeah,
comments?
I've got another
Councillor?
comment as well, with it doing it all at once. Seaford Christmas Magic and Armed Forces Day, on both of those events you're citing that you don't have enough officer time to be able to do those, and yet at the Personnel Committee meeting it was agreed that you would increase the officer time for the events officer. So it seems to be a bit of a contradiction really, that you can't deliver Christmas Magic and Armed Forces in that way, but yet you've increased officer time to deliver Armed Forces and Christmas Magic. Could you just explain that to me, please?
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be me. Okay, yeah, great point, thank you. The increased officer's time is 1 day a week, and that is for the sponsorship side of the role. That is looking at building relationships with industry and business within Seaford to start thinking about an income stream coming in. One of the things that Christmas Magic heavily relies on, if we want to do more, is actually generating an income stream around that project, and rather than just dipping into Seaford Town Council's reserves. So that 1 day a week will not be enough to start, that post doesn't start till October. It's not going to be enough time to set out or develop a big Christmas plan. We also had a lot of pushback for what was delivered last year in terms of Christmas Magic from the traders. So it was offered as this supports the traders, but actually the traders were saying, we don't really like it. So the pared down version is an opportunity to say to traders, is this something that you're more interested in? And does this work better for you? And how do you feel in terms of Seaford Town Council listening to the traders? In terms of Armed Forces and, is that all right for Christmas Magic?
Yeah.
In terms of Armed Forces Day and D-Day, that's more about the D-Days come along, and we're wondering about the best way to approach that rather than having two separate events. They're obviously really important events, and people might feel split between which one they want to attend. So I think it's rightly thinking strategically about what is it that event is going to be next year, especially with the Palace involvement and working with Linda as part of the St George, St George, and what we might want to do. What I'm really keen to do is not keep doing the same without just checking that actually doing the same is exactly what's wanted. So when there's an opportunity to look at things, it's to check. Is that what Seaford Town Council wants? Is that what the public are asking us for? Is that what the business is asking us for? So that's another opportunity.
I understand what you're saying, but it just seems to me that you're just proposing less, not more. There's never more, is there? So, what sort of feedback have you had from people then, when you're saying we're going to do less?
So in terms of Christmas Magic,
Yeah.
you're asking about the feedback on Christmas Magic.
Yeah.
We've had very little feedback in terms of people saying they don't like what we're doing. We have said it needs to come here first before we actually publicise it and talk to all of those involved, because obviously you're the councillors and you're in charge. So this is the point where you say, yeah, that's fine, we're happy with that. And you're exactly right, Councillor Honeyman, we are thinking about the burning of the clocks and how we involve children. We're also thinking about free. and affordable, which is the new strap line that we've got for that event. And having stalls and doing something really huge at this point, which is asking people to spend money, we're not sure if that's in line with currently where we are, you know, climate-wise. Doesn't mean next year we can't do different, we can't do more, absolutely. And one of the things we're going to do differently going forward is there will always be some feedback after events to climate change, to this committee, so that you can have a look at, you know, how did it work, what was the feedback, what was the money we spent, if we've got an idea of attendance, so that actually that gives you an informed opinion on what we do next.
One more time, Councillor.
A couple of extra things. I haven't mentioned them before. I like the way you're using the old town hall down there. Again, it's something which I always think that it could, the premises could be used a little bit more anyway. So this is an example using our own building and to do the Santa Grotto down there. Excellent idea. Not too far away in the scheme of where everyone's walking around. I hope the church over there gets involved. It did last year big time, didn't it? St Leonard's really did get involved all day because it was feeding cold and people did go in there for various things. That was a well-used resource. But that's outside your scope, but that's not really... That's up to them if they want to do that, of course, really, isn't it? Not you can't insist they do that. It's up to, I'm sure they will, but you know, they have to get themselves organised as well. And finally, but back on the exercise class business, I think you probably do need to put a clause in the exemptions with the parkrun, because they are exempt. Otherwise you better get someone the same. Well, I see parkrun on a Saturday morning, and you know, are they paying anything? So I don't know if you want to somehow, because people don't necessarily realise the Seaford Town Council land. So it's always a little bit, people don't understand the mud-coloured fields and the salts and so on, but not necessarily the seafront. It's sometimes envisaging that is actually Town Council land. I know it's not all Town Council land, because once you get onto the beach it's not, is it? But the actual problem generally is ours, isn't it? Well, there's a few exceptions again. You see what I mean? So I don't know if that needs to be a little bit clearer sometimes, especially with Parkland anyway. Thank you, if that helps.
Thank you. I think generally we understand it is quite complicated as to who owns what along the seafront, and I very much echo what Councillor Bristow has said, that it is our unique selling point, and I think it is really important because the repairs are definitely degrading, and I think it increases access and equality issues, because anybody, particularly with wheels, whether you're a cyclist or you've got a wheelchair or cycling for all ages, it is getting much worse on that surface. So I think we do need to ask officers to come up perhaps with some suggestions about working with Lewes District Council, who I gather stakeholders in this, and to look at the feasibility of possibly multimodal access as a shared common space, and not just see it as a trip hazard or an environmental issue. We need to look at this as a community resource that we have to look after and cherish and, if necessary, plan for the future in terms of economic and financial provision. So I think that's really quite high up on our concerns. Councillor Meek. Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Sorry, did you have your hand up?
Yes, she had a hand up first. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Meek.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Just because it follows on very neatly from what the Chair was talking about, because historically we've always had, I think there's been a little bit of a confusion as to what happens, who is responsible for the shingle that kicks up all over the promenade.
Yes.
We've had so many storms recently, and I remember in the last administration we had a problem. Well, the shingle everywhere, who's going to clear it up? And actually, some volunteers went down and actually did it, but I wonder whether we have a system in place where we recognise that either we do something about it, or does the EA do something about it, or what is that? Well, I don't know whose liability it is to make sure the prom is fit for purpose, because it could be the case where liabilities get, if someone's cycling along, they come a cropper on some pebbles, then are we responsible because it's our land and it's supposed to be a shared cycling walkway? I think that is quite a pertinent thing we ought to kind of think about and put some emergency kind of ideas in the back of our mind as how we deal with that.
My thoughts entirely.
So
Louise.
we met with the Environment Agency and talked about all the pebbles and the surface, and we've got beach users group coming up. Yes, and one of the things I'm aware that the prom in there says, look, it's fine, but I think that one of the agenda items will be the prom and how that works and the relationships on the prom, on the beach users group, and we can raise that item and talk about the shingle clearance and who does what and everything else within that, and then we can actually bring something back here. They have a very particular view, the Environment Agency. I'm not going to repeat it here because it's not completely clear in my head, but it's about who's responsible for what. So we could capture that in writing and bring that back.
The ownership, liability, and focus and importance, I think is important. They need all to come together, including the Lewis District Council, if they own part of it as well. It's like so many of these things, it's much, the more you know, the more complicated it is, and I think we've really got to look at this as an important topic for Seaford users.
Thank you.
My apologies.
Just going back to Christmas Magic, I don't know if there's been any thoughts of reverting it back to an evening, late afternoon evening, like it used to be. Although, I mean, because it is really to try and enhance the businesses in our town centre, and as well involving families as well. So I'm just wondering if that, you know, some research in that, like Lewis, you know, they have their late night shop in the evening. As they always used to be quite successful when they were in the evening. Maybe food for thought. Can't say an awful lot on the defibrillator because it's on my estate. But I know Seaford Rotary have put an awful lot of hard work into getting it to this stage. Thank you. That's all from me.
Councillor Bristow.
Yeah, quick question. You mentioned a beach users group. I'm aware we've also got stakeholder meetings coming up for the Salts and the Crouch, and I had a more general question about how the information from those are going to feed back to the council. Is it going to come to community services, or how will that kind of then be known by the council more widely?
So, I'm quite keen that we might think about maybe attaching minutes of those meetings for certainly beach users will come to climate change. There's Seaford Head conservation meeting. That could also, I think the minutes from those should come through. Quite a lot of things are going to affect Seaford Town Council. I think it's worth getting council opinion on what it is that's being discussed and what decisions the groups are looking to decide on. In terms of the stakeholders for the Salts and the Crouch, at this point in time there are no decisions because this is the very first meeting. I think the first two will not involve decisions necessarily. I think this is the first time we're putting people in the room together. There's an awful lot of old history to sort out and unpick. We have the terms of reference going to full council for the Salts and the Crouch for you to approve. When it gets to the point where we're clear what the business might be of those two groups, then absolutely no decisions will be made without coming to council, with the councillors having a view. But councillors are all invited to both meetings so they can hear what's being talked about. But initially, there are such a lot of areas that have never been talked about that are historic or current, just operational, that I think the vision's going to take a bit of time.
Thanks for that. I'm just keen that, you know, other councillors can have sight of that if they want to, of the, you know, summary or outcomes.
I think it's a really important point, and I've been thinking about that a lot.
Okay. Any more comments? Okay, so this will lead us to the votes. So, first point is to note the contents of the report. Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Raven, seconder. Councillor Meek. Vote. Everyone in agreement?
Thank you, Chair.
Right, second point. To agree the proposed revised format for Seaford Christmas Magic as of section 4. Could I have a proposal, please? Councillor Meek, seconder, Councillor Warraven. Those in favour? Unanimous? No. Councillor Dubar has against. Number 3, to agree the proposed scale down format for Armed Forces Day. Subject to what we discussed, so that includes you discussing it and possibly merging it, but we will leave that to you and your colleagues. Proposer, Councillor Warraven, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Duvar. Those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Number 4, to agree the Town Council will hold a D-Day celebration following the brief from Buckingham Palace. Proposer, please. Councillor Honeyman, seconder. Councillor Dubar, those in favour?
I'm abstaining.
Thank you.
Yeah, 3 and 4 go together, Chair, really, don't they?
Yeah.
Depending on what
They do, but I think it's important to separate the two out because operationally it gets quite messy if you're essentially making decisions on behalf of other people. So I think it's fine the way it is. Thank you. Right, section 5, to make any comment on the proposed annual licence fee for exercise and fitness classes as in section 8. Could I have a proposer, please?
Sorry, it's to make comments. I was going to put some recorded comments in. Is that how we do it? To make comments?
The purpose of... Sorry, Chair.
So do carry on.
This motion is designed to reflect what's happened during the meeting so far. There was that councillors have been given opportunities to comment on the proposals, which I believe you've done during the discussion we've just had.
Yes, I think it's been...
And this motion just provides a mechanism for that to happen, recognising not just noting that part of the report, but we're taking, so the idea is that the comments have been heard, and captured, obviously officers will then be mindful of them in terms of any proposals they take forward, so that's what the motion is
so I think that's what we
I would have had 2 extra comments having heard the information, that's all.
Which I'm afraid we missed that point.
Okay, so I'm going to vote against in that case.
Right, so can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Warraven and a seconder.
Councillor
Meek. Those in favour? Those against? So 2 against. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Right. To agree a motion to take on a new asset and the associated costs, noting that this is a Bishopstone defibrillator unit and emitting station, as in section 14 of the report. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Dubar, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bristow. Those in favour? With thanks.
Thank you.
And lastly, to approve establishing a South Hill Barn working group as per the terms of reference and report in section 16 of the report. You wish the proposer?
Well, no one's actually commented on it yet. I don't know what names are down yet either.
Yes.
So in the terms of reference, it's suggesting it's the chair of Community Services Committee with Councillor Meek, and then it's the chair and vice chair of the climate change. Vice chair because Councillor Buchanan has expertise in his professional experience, and Councillor Meek because of your expertise. And then the chair of the Finance Committee. There are 2 other spaces, unless you as chair don't wish to.
I'd rather there were 3. I don't want to be personally
Fine. So
involved,
there's 3 other spaces for anyone within this committee to join that working group, should they wish. We can go without any extra people if they don't want to.
Actually, can I join it? But do you know when the meeting's going to be? You think, generally daytime? I am flexible. But
We haven't set them up yet. We're just waiting to see what the interest is, and then we'll go out with probably a poll to say, look, when does it work for people? But generally daytime.
have you got any time frame roughly how long this might all take? Or there's not. As that tilts open ended at the moment, isn't it?
I'm hoping for 6 months. No longer than 6 months, to come up with a brief which then goes forward for voting to full council.
Okay, I'm happy to put the name down if that's all right.
I think the main point of this is just to get people to express an interest,
Yeah.
and
as
then let
opposed
them
to-
get
yeah.
together and try to work it out, and therefore dates, timescales, etc., can be agreed at that point. But I think it's important to get the ball rolling with the people who are interested, and I know quite a lot of work has gone up to this point,
Yeah.
but I haven't been part of it, and I don't particularly want to be involved now, but I'm very happy to facilitate those people who have put that work in and have shown that interest, particularly Councillor Buchanan, I gather, who is very interested in this. So I think what we do is, if we can approve this, then we can move it on and let other people get on. Do you have a comment?
Yes, I would like to join the work through.
Thank you.
But I would probably have problems getting up to Seaford Barn if you're having meetings up there.
I think we wouldn't be the only one.
We'll make sure
you
I think that's a detail. I think it's very much the direction of travel at the moment. So, Councillor Tiber.
There is a frequency here. It says fortnightly for the first 3 months and then monthly. Is that for the meeting?
Yes, but that can be once the group meet. We wanted to put in a framework, but once the group meet and identify what the body of work is, it's down to the group.
I think it's just getting the ball rolling, but there's quite a substantial amount of work right at the beginning to get the basics done. Okay, on that basis, can I ask for a proposer to approve the establishing of the Seaford Barn working group?
Who's going to be to blame, Councillor Meek?
Yes, I was going to say. The proposer, Councillor Meek, the seconder,
Yes.
Councillor Bristow, thank you. All in favour? Thank you.
Mr. Honest Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Right.
I'm going to take the resident now.
Thank you.
Thank you very
If
much.
you'd like to come for a break at this stage, please compose yourself.
The scope of the Seaford Barn, you've given us lots of time. Is that because the access down up the hill? Everything, all the places, the whole group, passage, isn't it? It'd be interesting how the short goes. The likes of what the short goes on those 5 days. Because basically start setting up next week. Well, they do, they've got a couple of those set up. It's interesting to, I know, obviously,
For the grounds maintenance.
I asked for a full list of contracts to the council.
Assets and bits and pieces registered. Yeah, which went well, it was, okay. So that's what I was told in terms of, we can pick it up.
I asked for this meeting in June.
Yes, yeah, no, I remember you asking for that.
You said you produced that.
Yeah, I do remember you asking.
I asked for all the dates and the financial values attached to that.
Is that right there?
And that hasn't been issued anywhere.
No.
Do they put
So
that
I
on?
will be raising
That's
it
one of
now.
the installations.
I think it's one of the installations of the
Oh, yes, I did, yes, yeah. It wasn't, I don't think it was that one, but it was another one. Yeah, sorry.
They obviously have security around now.
Okay. Are we ready to restart?
Go for it.
Okay. All right, can we restart the meeting, please? Okay, thank you. Right, we're now on item 5. This is the Town Council Projects Log. Can I hand over to Louise?
Yeah. So what I wanted to do going forward was actually give you an overview of all the work that we're currently looking at and the projects that we've currently got in front of us, whether they're historic, and we've got a lot of historic projects that have been voted through through various committees and councils, and a way of adding new projects as they come through, but also I wanted to prioritise those so that you had an opportunity to say, well, I like this order of priority. Actually, that new project I think is really important, and we want to bring it forward. We're mindful that we've got the 3.5 staff, so we are prioritising getting projects that have been around for a long time, getting them closed and finished, and also making sure we don't miss any great new ideas. Each quarter before the meetings, we will go through and look at the new projects and actually decide where they're sitting, and we will also we regularly every 2 weeks regrade the status of the projects from the green, amber, red, on hold or new. So this is a live document, and when I say live, it can be sent to you, and then the week after, while the papers are being worked up, it may well have changed. So it's as I say, we can't give you all the details that you might want to know in terms of, we just put a tiny line of description, but do feel free to ask us more questions if you wish to. And this will be attached every quarter, so that you've got an opportunity to see the body of work that we're currently focused on.
Yes, I've seen a couple of versions of this in the last month or so, and I can definitely agree that it's a working document because it changes, and things like, for example, electric vehicle charging can now be taken off the list. It can be closed because electric vehicle charging points have been put in by the district council. So I think it's a really good way of monitoring what's going on, looking at a structure, and having much more of a contextual understanding of what's going on. And I think also for the public it will help, because often a lot of the inquiries that come to us as councillors are as what's happened to my pet subject, what's going on, and then there can be an answer and a chronology, and if people aren't happy they can then challenge it via us or directly. So I think it's a very good document for allowing communication, and sometimes just knowing it's on the list and it's going up the list can be all that either a councillor or a member of the public needs. So I thank Louise and her team for doing this, because it's no small task, but I think it helps us understand their work, and it also helps us represent our fellow citizens. So thank you very much. I think it's a real step forward, and we look forward to working with this list and contributing it. I have contributed it, mine is on the bottom, so thank you very much, it works. Councillor Honeyman.
Okay, we've got a few questions I did expect from you, Chair.
Surprise me.
Right, okay. So when obviously lots of things in maintenance, I could argue, when is stuff going to disappear from here, and also the status of the green, and what do they really mean? Green on hold, whatever. What's the other colours? Red, I suppose you've got amber, have you? I don't know. So I don't know if that can be a bit more clearer, because I know certain projects will disappear off this list, but at what stage and all that. So I don't need an answer now, but you can see where I'm coming from. I mean, often we have these ongoing lists, but it's when stuff goes in and when stuff comes out, effectively. So just a little bit more full from that. But I like the principle of the whole lot, so I'm not knocking it.
Just comment on that. I missed out quite an important part, actually, I've realised, because what we do is we have blue, which is closed, and I'm proposing at the end of each year that we show you all the closed projects.
Oh, okay.
So these projects will drop off this list onto the closed list, and once a year we'll produce all the closed projects for you to have a look at. I think it's helpful to see that we've actually managed to do and complete some projects for you. So great question, because I forgot that bit.
Okay, that's fine, absolutely. There you go. Thank you.
Councillor Dubé?
I've got a question, but I'm not really sure where it should be asked. So,
go for it.
On the grounds maintenance contract, it's saying, obviously on here, 25, and you said earlier that we would be voting on that, whether it would be appropriate to bring it forward, and we didn't have a vote on it. So, how is my request to bring it forward to summer 24 going to be actioned, please?
I think that okay, I'm happy to have a go.
It's process, I don't know.
It's a process. I think there's two points I'll make, Councillor Dillon. One is that in the last discussion, there wasn't a seconder for a motion to make any changes, so the chair was quite right in not taking it any further because there wasn't a secondary motion to consider. In terms of process, I think that because of the strong communication that we want to always have and encourage between parties, as town clerk, I'm reasonably relaxed about whether something gets formalised up to that being a motion that councillors consider to bring it forward, or whether essentially the meeting is asking the officers to consider whether it can be brought forward, and the officers kind of go away and come back to councillors to explain whether it can or cannot. You might prefer that second approach, Chair, to the first one for this particular instance, perhaps, rather than have to super formalise and make everyone have to vote one way or the other now. It might be that you're actually effectively, as Chair, Councillor Garth, through the Chair, is effectively asking officers to undertake that request.
Yes, I
Would
think
that be appropriate, Chair?
that I think is much more
Well,
appropriate.
shall we do that?
Yeah,
Let's do
we'll
that.
make a note.
Okay, is there, yeah, any further comments? Councillor Mead.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to just back up what you said. I think this is a fantastic piece of work, and I have to say that Louise, having come into the job, not so long ago, I wonder if partly for your own peace of mind you wanted to establish what the heck was going on with all the projects you had. But this is benefiting us hugely as well, because lots of us have known what the projects have been, but the projects kind of get lost.
Yeah.
And then we don't know quite where we are. And I remember councillors saying, what happened to that project? We said we'd vote on this, and we voted it through, and nothing's happened. And it's very easy to vote projects through and say we'd like to do this, and it gets lost. So I think it's brilliant. I've got one question is just completion forecast 2024. This is that's a whole year. When do we actually mean? Because some of these projects, some of these ideas, we need to know, is this going to be in state for the summer of 2024? If it was completed by January or February, you go, that's great for the next summer season, for instance. But if it means that this might get finalised in November 24, then we've lost another whole year and we don't quite know where we are. For instance, I would be very keen, because it's such a particular pertinent point at the moment, motorhome parking, I think is really important to actually get off the blocks now, because we need to have something in place for next year, I really think. And if it didn't get decided till mid next year, we've got another season where we've got a problem with motorhomes on the seafront. And I would love to have a discussion with somebody about that, because I had a very interesting conversation only a couple of nights ago with a guy who lives in Lewes but owns a motorhome, and had some very pertinent things to say about what he thought could happen in his experience on the continent, which actually they charge a minimal amount for motorhomes to park in towns in Spain and France. But what happens is all the people who own the motorhomes, they go into the town to eat and go to the pub because they don't want to cook. They've just driven all day. So actually what happens is it's really helping the economy of the town. So these are things we might not know about. We just see it as a problem. But we could actually solve it as a problem by making it attractive within a regulated framework. And then we could have the traders in the town are going to go, God, I've suddenly got 20 people, 5 motorhomes turned up, and they've all come and been to the plough or something and had a meal. So they're really happy. So I think there are sometimes we don't want to fight against things with bureaucracy, but we can actually welcome them and they find them that they're actually an asset. So those were just a couple of things. Thank you.
Any comments?
Yeah, two things. The motorhome parking is falling into a split issue in the sense of there's a full council discussion and approach with East Sussexes, which is about parking that's unwanted and not following the rules, emptying their toilets in our toilets, that sort of thing. That's one side of it, which I think is being picked up. The other side of it, which is on the project list, which is about the European approach to offering paid for parking with toilet emptying facilities, that project's on there. And yes, you're right, I've got 2024. There's two bits of answer to that. Is one, we haven't quite worked out the detail of which projects we're going to run with in 2024 and which ones we aren't yet. And for the motorhome one particularly, I think my feeling was we needed to land the parking that's unwanted before we looked at inviting them to parking that might be wanted. And we probably had to do a public consultation and identify which bit of land that we owned, if we wanted to go ahead and invite them to park, that we could use for that purpose. So splitting it out. But you're right on 2024, and a lot of those, I put them in there on the basis that Sharon and I will go back and sift through for more detail.
Great, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Bristow.
Thank you for that, that's really useful, and thank you so much for this. I'm finding it very useful to look at, and I echo Councillor Meek's comments about just having a little bit more detail on the sort of time progress and so on. I'm going to go in descending numerical order, just with a few quick points and a couple of questions. So starting off with 55, the Salt Skate Park floodlighting, review the lighting schedule with dark evenings for 2023. I'm cognizant that there has been, and I believe there still is, a problem with one of the lights dazzling drivers. And I just wanted to make sure that that's in there, because I think that's quite important that we look at that for the dark season. 52 South Hill Barn drainage. As we were at the site visit on Tuesday, there was comment that I think it's a couple of the guttering runs are not coming down, and I'm just wondering, with the timing there of 2024 and its potential for affecting the dew pond, whether that might be looked at in light of, you know, how it might affect species in the ponds and so on.
May I just?
Yeah, please do.
So it's a bigger problem because it's also not draining in the middle of the concrete courtyard.
Yeah.
So the reason I put 24 is it's really difficult to work out when we'll fix all these different things, and they're linked together. So we're getting the drainage looked at underneath. You're absolutely right, there's an issue with the water running down. There's an issue with the dew pond and the guttering. We're finding it difficult to find someone to come and do that bit of guttering. We were hoping they'd do it with the roof that we've just fixed, but they were a bit like, no thank you. So rather than say we'll fix it in 2023, I've gone out. I have over 800 days. Oh, thanks for you.
Chair, I'll do the guttering, it's not a problem. I can go and do the guttering, it's really easy.
Perfect.
I mean,
Is that allowed?
honestly,
I know.
I've got public liability insurance to £5 million, so, you know, I'm a landscape gardener, I can go and do that. Honestly.
Perhaps we could take that offline.
Yeah.
I mean, a bigger way to do business, but thank you very much for the offer. We'll ask the officers to contact you separately. Okay.
Coming down to number 42, Fields in Trust, which is the scheme to register parks and open spaces to add some level of protection against development. Again, it's just asking for a bit more clarity. I mean, 2024, I think a lot of us around the Crouch, we know how close we potentially came last year to things taking a different direction, and I believe we've had the deed of dedication, at least in draft, and we've had visits now. I'm looking at the town clerk because I've been involved in that.
Fields and Trust have to have undertaken a site visit, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they were very kind of relaxed about the Crouch generally during the site visit. And you know but basically where it's been left is that they are a charitable organisation who do amazing work, are very stretched. Their processes do take time.
So are we waiting for that deed to come back for all the three spaces?
Yeah, there's some information. Yeah, there's some information that we send them information work for a while. They come back and clarify this. We go, okay, we clarify this. So there's a process going on to get to the point of finalisation. It does take a bit of time, I'm afraid, but the process is ongoing, and we will get to finalisation, and proposals will come to full council.
So does the 2024 description, is that vaguely workable? Does that
I'm going to say yes,
reasonable?
Chair. Vaguely workable sounds good to me.
And do you anticipate them all coming together, all the sites? Or?
Unless there's a reason not to bring them together, yes.
Okay.
That would, I imagine that would only, which hasn't happened so far, would only occur if there was particularly material issues raised in relation to one of the sites, but the others were basically ready, we don't let them split it. And that would just be an operational decision.
Yeah.
But I know Fields and Trust has got quite a high priority with people regarding the downs green spaces as
that's
well,
right, the downs as well.
following
That's right.
the health hub discussion.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think it is an important issue, and we
Yeah.
need to make sure and reassure our fellow Seaford residents that it hasn't slipped off the agenda, as it were, because if it is down to another organisation as well, it's important that they realise that, and it's not just something else that they feel has got in a list and is logjam. So I think that's quite an important issue to raise. Councillor Honeyman.
I do have a question, but just follow up. Well, obviously, a good example of Fields and Trust around here is Guildridge Park, Eastbourne, of course.
Yes.
A huge park, lots going on.
Yeah.
Lots of sport, lots of other activities. That's not the main reason. My question here is, should Cliff Gardens be on this list? Because even though SCP are sort of running it, it's on our land, and you will get involved at any one stage. So it's not on there at the moment, is it, Cliff Gardens project?
Well, I mean, we've asked, sorry Chair, just to say, we've confirmed with Seaford Community Partnership, because the Cliff Gardens permission was given back in January 2022. And obviously that's nearly 2 years ago now. So SCP have agreed that Cliff Gardens will come back to full council, either in November or January. That's going to be an agenda space decision, given that as councils are aware just how much business we have to do in our 3 full councils in September and November. So I'm not going to make a firm promise in November, because we may discover some of the other decisions we make require agenda time in November that won't allow that to happen in November, in which case it would probably then be January. So SCP have agreed they'll be coming back.
Yeah, we know that.
So that would be a perfect time to maybe raise those sorts of ideas and proposals when they come back for a further update, and to seek any further permissions they need to take their project further forward.
So for you, Chair, so unless we know, until we know the detail, it's best to keep it off here for now.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we're not going to make, as I say, that would be, I mean, to make a Fields and Trust proposal, that would be time, so that would be when council consider Cliff Gardens next, which would be November or January.
Thank you.
Any more comments before we go to the vote? Councillor Warren.
Going back to the electric vehicle charging, did we investigate anything to have them up at the golf course? I know we discussed it at the climate change meeting.
We were looking at in whole about putting electrical vehicle charging points. Lewis District have rolled them out across a number of car parks. The golf course, because it's private land, we won't get any support with that at all. So we then approached a couple of the sort of electric vehicle charging companies and saying, how does it work? Would we get a session? But actually, we cold have to pay for that. We might get some sort of shareage on the usage, but actually financially, it wasn't viable, and we would have to pay considerable costs on that.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Dubai.
Yeah, can I just ask that in the descriptions there is some more detail put in there, because they're not very explanatory. So for example, it just says asbestos inspection. Doesn't say where. January tender documents. So there's not very much smart detail in there. Could that be expanded on for next time, do you think?
I want to say yes. I'm not quite sure what we've gone for is just an overarch of the project headline, as opposed to filling in the full details. So for every site that's got that's got asbestos in, our role is to inspect the buildings for asbestos. I wouldn't want to produce a list of all the buildings that we found asbestos in. If it's a project that particularly interests you, I'm really happy to have a conversation about the process that we followed, what we did, and the sort of the next steps as part of our health and safety responsibilities. But in terms of listing the buildings, is that
just a little bit more detail really. So asbestos inspections were undertaken at 14 Seaford buildings. Reports are available on request, something like that. Don't expect full detail on there, but just something more than 2 words.
Okay.
Well, I think this is a work in motion. It's a good
Yeah.
start, and we can evolve it as needed. But I think just actually having everything written down with a structure is a huge step forward from where we are. So I think we just have to evolve with it, really.
And also,
Okay.
point 1.1, you said it was agreed last time that you would produce a list of ongoing projects at the June meeting. You also agreed that you produce a list of contracts, and that hasn't been delivered. Can I have it noted that it will be delivered, please?
So the ongoing contracts is obviously commercial information.
Yes.
And that's something we might not want to put out into the sort of the general public in terms of affecting our commercial businesses, and also exposing when we go out to tender the prices we're not paid.
So we did discuss that, and we said that you'd have two documents, one with the prices on and one without the prices, and you've given me neither. So I would still like that information, please.
So, Adam, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I thought on that, if the councillors are on an understanding that a redacted contract list should come to this committee, and that was agreed by committee.
Is this the appropriate place, do you think, or would it be finance and general services?
Well, I guess for the said chair, I'm just going with this committee's requested the information, so.
The committee didn't request, it was something, I don't think it was voted on, was it? It was
No.
something you asked for in the...
Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't voted on.
Well, it wasn't not voted on either.
My memory of it was that it was a request from you, but I don't think we actually had a formal vote on it. But that,
Okay.
obviously, I think it means it's a constructive suggestion.
Exactly,
I think,
absolutely.
but it needs to be thought: is this the appropriate venue, the appropriate committee to discuss this?
Okay, I mean,
I'd be interested in your comments.
yeah, I mean, I take those points completely. I think that it really depends what information you're interested in, because in practice, the contracts and lease arrangements we have relate to our, a lot of this project information relates to our assets, to our buildings, and also to our legal and financial responsibilities, such as asbestos actions, for example. And the scheme of delegation gives the Community Services Committee responsibility for all of our assets. That's clearly in the scheme of delegation. So that, I would say, that can encompass any relevant information relating to those assets under the terms of the scheme of delegation.
Well, can I suggest then that a redacted version of this is produced for the next Community Services meeting? If I act as a proposer, could someone second that for me? Councillor Duba, can we have a vote on that, please? Those in favour of a redacted contracts list?
So I don't understand in the sense of what the purpose of it is, what's the point, or how is it going to be presented and all that sort of thing. Is it just for information more than anything, or is it a bit wider, Chair?
May I answer that? I
Yes,
think
please
it's
do.
commercially sensitive. So we have to think about what is it the councillors, as you said, what is it you're looking for? Just a list of the contracts, or?
I would like to see a list of the contracts, who the contracts are with, what the contracts are for, and I would like to see the values associated with them.
Well, that's can't be done
That's
through
not,
this
that's
committee.
not possible.
That is
Yeah.
not something for this committee to
No.
consider. All of the contracts that we hold are conducted in relation to our finance regulation. So we follow our finance regs in all the contracting that we do as an organisation. And it depends upon the finance regulations which councils are involved in those decisions, if any, and at what level those decisions are taken relating to finances. So all of those contracts would have gone through due process to be awarded, and the finance regulations will show you the process that was followed to award those contracts.
But there isn't really one place that you can go to see what commitments the council has. Is
Well,
there?
the way that works currently. Sorry, Chair. Is it all right for me to carry on answering your question, Chair?
It's turning into a bit of a dialogue, which is quite
in
off piece a
terms
little,
of,
a little
you know,
bit.
through you, Chair.
Yes, thank you.
Then basically the council sets a budget every year as an organisation, agreeing each particular cost centre and all of the costs that will be spent within that cost centre, and obviously any contract costs will be contained within those cost centres and those budgets. So that's how the process is managed within the council. Item 6 for this agenda is the Community Services Finance Report. So costs that relate to community services come through that report and are reported to this committee. So we contract in terms of our financial regulations, we spend money in accordance with what is in our budget, and we report to councillors on expenditure against budget, and that's how financial controls are practiced within the organisation.
Any comment, Councillor Duval? So I think essentially what Town Clerk is saying is that your request is commercially sensitive and it is not included in the finance regulations as defined.
Yes, I'm going to say yes to that. But there's nothing in other words, on the one hand, in terms of if councillors wish to make changes to the finance regulations, that will be a matter for FNGP or for full council, and also full council sets policies, so they would amend it. And so, yeah, so if that's where if the council might if they don't consider the financial regulations to be adequate for the financial control solution is, then the councils would seek to change the financial regulations through full council. But the officers are following the finance regs in terms of their practice in relation to contracts.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Duval?
It does. I still would have liked a list.
Okay, thank you. So can I move on to the regulatory vote? To note the contents of the report and the projected log as presented. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Bristow, a seconder please. Councillor Meek, all those in favour? Thank you. Thank you. And moving to the last agenda item, which is indeed the income and expenditure. We don't have Lucy Clark with us, I gather. No. Who's going to speak to
No,
this?
finance don't normally come to these meetings.
I can speak.
You can speak. Thank you.
So Lucy's written a summary of all the finances. There aren't really any headlines on here or anything new or unexpected. Do have a look and see if there's anything you particularly want to ask questions on in terms of the budget.
Any comments?
I may be allowed to embarrass myself wildly here. So please do excuse me, it's been a very busy week. But reading through the various over and underspends, page 30 it's got cost centre 117 seafront and line 4201 about cleaning and hygiene additional spend. But I couldn't see that in the list on page 35 under 117. I was just wondering, have I missed it?
No.
Yes, please do.
No, I had a conversation about that. It's actually been absorbed into, and I think there's a confusion because in terms of the budget for the it's the budget for the toilets, for the extra cleans that we put in.
Yeah.
What's happened is this goes to July.
Okay.
We haven't had the bills yet.
Oh, fair enough.
So what will happen is in the December one, if you remember this point, you can ask us and it'll be in there.
Thank you.
But she's preparing you for the fact that will come through.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much for that and sparing mine.
No embarrassment.
You're all right.
You're right.
Excellent, well done. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Moot.
Thank you, Chair. On the back of that, just so that I can understand, because I didn't quite understand lease contracts toilet cleaning in the previous agenda item. I was understood that our toilets were cleaned by Lewis District Council, and we presumably pay them. But are all our toilets cleaned by Lewis District Council?
Yes.
So
Same contract.
when it comes through to the new Martello toilets with the concession in it, is that still going to be pertain? Does that pertain there? Because there was some talk about money from the cafe being used to underwrite the cleaning of the toilets there.
So there is a paper in December coming to Community Services looking at the toilets as a whole. And in that paper, it will give you opportunity to look and talk about how often you want to clean them, how do you want to be offering toilets, do you not want to be offering toilets, the maintenance costs of the toilets, and the general overview for all of the toilets. We know that that our relationship with those district council will be coming to an end. So within that paper as well, in terms of toilet cleaning, and also within that paper as well will be a request to go out to tender for the toilet cleaning as from April the 1st. So yes, it may well be that income from the cafe covers the cost of the Martello toilet clean, but actually we have 2 other sets of toilets that they'll also need to be paying to clean as well. So the whole of the toilet issue, question, lovely subject, will come to you, and there's an opportunity to have an open discussion at full council beforehand where we can collect all of the points that you might want to go into a brief about toilets, and we'll put them in so that when they come here that discussion has been had beforehand, and then it will be options in terms of what you want to pay.
Chair, can I come back on that?
Please do.
Because this is just well in advance of that meeting. We're discussing with 1 or 2 other councillors. Ever since COVID, I mean, the situation in Seaford from now, since before COVID to now, is radically different, as we all know.
Yeah.
From that article that appeared in a broadsheet paper about Seaford being the hidden jewel of the south coast, where you don't have to pay for parking. And now, as we experienced last weekend or the weekend before, we get inundated with people, and now we're expected, apparently, to provide toilet facilities for thousands of people on a weekend, which we never had to pay for before, because we never had that many people coming. So in a way, we have to kind of think, as a community services, informing F&GP and how we go forward with financing all this. What are we going to do? Are we taking the responsibility on our own shoulders that we've now got to provide tons of toilets, particularly in high season, in order to accommodate all these people who, by the way, come to the beach and don't pay anything into the town at all?
Yes.
And do we therefore need to really consider paying for parking on the seafront in order to underwrite how we manage to have toilets and clean toilets and all that kind of thing? I just put that forward as an idea to make us all aware going forward. Chair, thank you.
Sorry, Chair. Parking charges will never underwrite toilet costs because parking charges go to the parking authority. So if we charge for so if a decision is made, it's not our decision because we're not the parking authority. If the decision is made to charge for parking on the seafront, the funds will not come to Seaford Town Council. So they'll have no bearing whatsoever on any ability we may have to spend money on anything, toilets or otherwise. So we just need to be clear on that.
No, I did know that actually, sorry.
Okay. So you finished, okay.
Is there any way that you can negotiate that with parking authorities?
No.
It's
the law.
It's
the law.
Yeah.
It's a legal fact. So there's nothing that can be done unless the law is changed. So that might be an MP issue rather than me, if that makes sense.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? I find it fascinating looking through this, just reminding us of just how much money we are making from concessions, filming, the beauty of our town. And I think it's incumbent on us to protect that and make sure that we're invested in the future. And as we know, the toilets and the parking and the seafront are all enmeshed together, and I think it's very much our duty to make sure that we are getting value for money and we do protect our surroundings. And yes, we do want to encourage people to come, but we want them to be responsible, whether it's litter bins or whether it's parking or whether it's involving in helping the town economy. They're all completely enmeshed. But I think it's very important that we understand that a lot of our income is from that, and we need to protect it. So on that basis, if there are no further questions, I will ask that we are recommended to note the contents of the report. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Walraven, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Meek. Those in favour? Thank you. And, it's 20:39. Thank you very much.